And we will resume. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you bring the jury in, please, sir.
Yes, sir. We need to put one thing on the record.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I apologize. Was that?
And maybe we need to approach and
Yes, sir.
just
Please, sir. For the record, the jury is out. This is the jury out hearing. Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Thank you, sir. Have a seat right here, please, sir. In fact, Frias, good afternoon. State your name for the record and spell it for the court reporter, please, sir. You may certainly take off that mask.
Fausto, Frias.
Foxtrot Alpha Uniform, Sierra Tango Oscar. Frias is Foxtrot Romeo India Alpha Sierra.
For the record, again, this is the jury out here. I think it said Detective Frias. Where are you employed right now, sir?
City of Memphis.
And what?
Memphis Police Department.
How long have you been employed with the state of Memphis?
3 months short of 22 years, so 21 years and 9 months.
Are you assigned to a particular unit right now, sir?
Assigned to the homicide unit.
And how long have you been in the homicide unit?
Over 9 years. I've been in criminal investigation over 14 years.
Detective Frias, the lawyers, Mr. Hagman, is going to call you as a witness in a few minutes. And there are a couple of things that we need to talk about, give you some limitations on what the lawyers will talk to you about to make sure that we do not repeat certain things in front of the jury. They're going to ask you about a statement, a conversation that you had allegedly with Billy Turner. And you may talk about the substance of the conversation, you may talk about anything that was actually in the conversation. But apparently at some point, on the conversation I had at bench with the lawyers, that at some point, Mr. Turner decided to terminate the interview, terminate the conversation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You can tell the jury if that question is asked that Mr. Turner, in fact, decided to terminate the conversation or that interview, but you cannot tell the jury that the reason he decided to terminate the interview was because he asked for an attorney. You understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
That will go into attorney-client privileges and other things. You were certainly, when the rights are read, that was given to Mr. Turner, that he has the right to terminate the interview at any time, and those other things, you may certainly publish that. But if you're asking questions, Clay, ask questions as to the substance of the interview, and Mr. Turner at some point says, I don't want to talk anymore, I want to terminate this interview, you may certainly say he said that, and the interview was in fact terminated, but not because he asked to speak to an attorney or asked for an attorney. You understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Secondly, thing that we talked about, there may have been some questions that you asked, which is proper, to confront a person charged with a crime about your investigation of what you have in your investigation, that you may have taken statements from other witnesses, but you can't go into what the substance of what those statements from other witnesses may have been. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And just a hypothetical, one of the scenarios that we talked about, if you talk to other people and they told you that they believe that Mr. Turner had some kind of relationship, a romantic relationship with Sharon Wright, you can't ask or say that, and the state is not going to ask you that in front of the jury as to whether or not somebody told you that Mr. Turner may have had a relationship, some romantic relationship with Sharon Wright. You can't go into the particulars of what that person may have said, but they may certainly ask you if you talk to folks, to statements from folks, and if you confronted them with some of the statements that were made as relative to some questions that you may have asked. You understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Anything else the lawyers want me to cover on this jury out here so we're clear when the jury comes in?
No, Your Honor.
Detective Frias is going to have you step down from the witness stand. I'm going to swear you back in a minute, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Watch yourself.
Mask or no mask?
I'm sorry?
Mask?
Detective Frias, I'm going to leave it 100% to you. I'm obligated to tell you that the Shelby County mayor, because of a lawsuit in Shelby County, and the federal courts are concerned about coronavirus and keeping inmates safe in jail. There are 3 buildings in Shelby County that masks are mandated. Courtrooms and in places where inmates have access. Shelby County Juvenile Facility and the Shelby County Division of Correction. And because inmates, like Mr. Turner who's in custody, has access to the courtroom, in order to keep Shelby County from paying millions of dollars in possible lawsuits, masks are required in the courtroom. But on the witness stand, there's no longer a distance requirement, but on the witness stand, if you want to have the mask on, you may do so. But if you want to take the mask off while you're testifying so the answers might be more clearly heard, I would give that option totally up to you. You can wear the mask or you can take it off. I would give it the option totally up to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Captain Smith.
Yes, sir.
You bring in the jury, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, everyone can be seated. Text Frias. Come forward, please, sir. Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Thank you, sir. Put your hand on Text Frias. Have a seat here, sir. Watch step. Mr. Hagerman, you may proceed, sir.
Can you state your name for the court, please?
Fausto Frias,
And can you spell it for the record?
Foxtrot Alpha, Uniform Sierra, Tango Oscar. Frias is Foxtrot Romeo, India, Alpha Sierra.
Sounds like an answer a police officer would do. Reading a license plate or something. Are you a police officer?
I've been a Memphis police officer going on 22 years. I've been in criminal investigation for over 14 years. I've been working homicide for over 9 years. In the city of Memphis, that's over 2,000 murders and about 5,000 death investigations. It would take a few hundred.
Are you still in homicide?
Yes, I am.
Do you have occasion to become involved in the investigation of the murder of Lorenzen Wright?
I did.
Specifically, do you have occasion to become involved in that investigation in 2016, 2017, what we've been calling Operation Rebound?
Yes, I was part of that.
I'm going to ask you about one of your duties in that investigation, okay? Did you have occasion to interview Billy Turner,
Yes, I did.
particularly on December the 5th of 2017?
Yes, I did.
First, do you see Mr. Turner in the courtroom today?
Yes, he's behind his attorney wearing a purple tie, I believe.
Can
The white shirt.
The record reflect he's identified the defendant? No.
Record reflected Detective Frias has subscribed, has identified the defendant, Mr. Billy Turner. May proceed, Mr. Hagerman.
On December the 5th, 2017, had Mr. Turner been arrested?
Yes,
And where did you have occasion to speak with Mr. Turner at?
at the Ganyan.
You here in Memphis, Tennessee?
Yes,
So there's police officers there?
yes.
Tell me, what's the procedure? Well, in 2017, what was the procedure for interviewing a defendant?
You begin with an introduction, get some data, verify who they are, education background, figure out what mental or health condition they're in. Once you go past those questions, you move on to the Miranda rights. You do the Miranda rights, advising on their rights, you have the right to remain silent. Once they review it and acknowledge it in writing or verbally, that they understand their Miranda rights, they don't have any question about their Miranda rights. If they agree to talk to us, they'll sign it, date it, I'll sign it, Barney will sign it. Then we'll begin an oral interview. And that's interview to see what the individual knows about what happened and an opportunity for us to confront them with whatever evidence we have. And then after that, after the oral interview, at the time, the Memphis Police Department policy was that you would take that oral interview and put it into a type statement, which is a question and answer type statement. And at the end of that type statement, they would review it. And if they needed to make any changes, they would circle wherever it was, and then they will handwrite whatever changes. If something was not typed properly, if that's not what they meant to say. And after that, they initial the bottom of each page, and they will sign and date the last page if the statement was as they said.
So 2017, interviewing a criminal defendant, introduction, is that right?
Yes.
Miranda rights,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes.
Oral interview, is that right?
Yes.
And then written interview.
Yes.
Is that
Written
correct?
statement, yes.
A written interview that is signed by the defendant?
Yes.
A written interview that is could be introduced in court.
Yes,
And was that the procedure in 2017?
yes.
Two questions about that. Does that differ from the procedure in 2017 about talking to a witness?
No.
Let me ask you some questions about that. I may have confused you. When you talk to a witness to a crime, do you have to provide that witness Miranda rights?
Not in all cases. Our procedure with the witness is basically the same. That you have the introduction. If you know for a fact this person is not involved in the murder, then you will skip the Miranda rights. Or you will go to the oral and then you will reduce that to a formal statement, which will be a questions and answers statement. But the only thing that we leave out is the Miranda rights when you're dealing with a true witness.
Second, talking to a witness in 2017 per MPD policy, a witness, are y'all allowed to audio or video record or whatever sort of recording you want to do?
Yes. Yes.
In 2017 MPD policy, were you allowed to audio or video a defendant statement?
No.
Instead, it was a process I laid out before. Is that correct?
Yes.
Nowadays, can y'all audio and video a defendant statement?
Yes.
And do you take interviews now all the time that are the entirety of it is audio and video recording?
Yes.
In 2017, no.
Correct.
And do you make those MPD policies? You follow?
Yes.
Are there times during an interview, 2017, in which afterwards you would write a supplement about what was said?
Yes. Supplements would be like notes of the interview and of events that took place, and just to help out with a timeline and to help out time in court.
And if I ask you questions in court today about the interview you did with Billy Turner on December the 5th of 2017 and ask you exactly what time it started, exactly what time X happened, or exactly what time it was concluded, would you be able to answer those just off the top of your head?
No.
Or the senior supplement refresh your memory with regard to those things?
Yes.
Freeze for me, please, sir. Mr. Hager.
All right, Detective Frias, I'm not going to ask you, and it's not appropriate, to simply read from the statement. This is not something that is a piece of evidence like a written statement would be. But I'm going to ask you questions as we go, okay?
Correct.
Can you walk us through the introductory portion of Mr. Turner's interview?
Yes. The defendant was taken into custody and transported to the gang unit. There he was put in a holding cell, and myself and Sergeant Parks, I'm probably about an hour and a half later from the time he was taken into custody, we moved him from the holding cell into an interview room.
Let me stop you. So if your supplement reads that he may have arrived at the gang unit at 10:22 and the interview started at 12:15, that would reflect that time there that you're talking about. Is that correct?
Yes. So he's moved to an interview room, and there we walked in and introduced ourselves. Also asked him if he needed the restroom, if he needed some water, something to eat, for something. And he responded that he was fine. At that point, we informed him that he was indicted for first-degree murder in the murder of Lorenzen Wright, and we wanted to talk to him concerning that homicide. We asked him some biographical questions. After he answered those questions, we went over his Miranda rights. He said he read his Miranda rights and understood them, signed them, and agreed to talk to us.
And the time documented there is 12:27. That'd be right?
Yes.
Let's talk about this interview with Mr. Turner. What was the first thing you asked Mr. Turner?
The first thing we asked Mr. Turner was, what was his relationship to Lorenzen Wright? And he responded that he didn't really have a relationship to Lorenzen Wright, that he was the yardman for Sharon Wright, and that he did odd jobs in the house, but he didn't have a relationship with Lorenzen Wright.
Did you then ask him about any of Sharon Wright's relatives in Mississippi?
Yes, I asked him if he knew any of her relatives, and he explained yes. He said he knew of an aunt that lived in Beasley because he had to help move some furniture around. I asked him if he knew if the aunt had a son, and he said that he didn't know, and then he said, yeah, I think I've seen him a couple times.
And this aunt would be speaking of Edna Richardson?
Yes.
And his son, who are we talking about?
Jimmie Mark.
And you said he responded no, but then he responded something different?
Yes, he said he's seen him a couple of times. He got in some little trouble about killing his girlfriend.
And when you say he got in some trouble about killing his girlfriend, you're talking about Mr. Martin, correct?
Yes.
Then Mr. Turner, he said that.
Yes.
Did you ask whether or not he had any other dealings with J. Martin?
He said he only ran into him twice.
He said he only ran into him twice.
Yes.
Did you ask him whether or not he had had a sexual relationship with Sharon Wright around the period of Lorenzen Wright's murder?
Yes, he said that they were sexually intimate one time.
Did you confront him with information that may not have been the true extent of that relationship?
I did.
Did he respond to that?
No.
He had no response?
No, he didn't respond.
Did you ask Mr. Turner about his whereabouts the night that Lorenzen Wright was murdered?
Yes, I did. He said he really didn't remember. He believed he was at home taking care of his sister, but that he wasn't sure where he was.
Did you ask about his vehicle being parked in front of Sharon Wright's house, his truck, the morning after Lorenzen Wright was killed?
Yes.
Did he respond?
He really didn't have an answer to. I confronted him with some information that I obtained through the investigation, saying that.
Well, we don't even need to get into the actual information, but first, when you asked about his car being there the morning after, you say that he had no response?
I'm not sure. Can I look at myself?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if there's something that helps you remember, absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. He didn't have an explanation why his car was at Sharon Wright's house the morning that after Lorenzo was murdered.
And in your supplement, you actually make notes about Mr. Turner's physical demeanor and the things he does during the interview. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you have to make any notes at that time about Mr. Turner's physical reaction?
Yes. When I asked him why was your car parked at Sharon Wright's house the morning after Lorenzen Wright was murdered, he just dropped his head and put his head down.
And when you say car, do you mean car or do you mean truck?
Whatever vehicle that he was driving at the time, I can't remember.
Do you also confront him with information about business cards and Lorenzen Wright?
Yes.
Do you have a response? You can refer yourself to the supplement describes physical reactions and events.
When I confront him about the business cards for Lorenzo, He shook his head up and down in agreement with that, yes, that's,
And then did you show him photo spreads?
yes, I showed him,
In particular, did you show him a photo spread of Sharon Wright?
yes,
Was he asked to look at it?
yes,
Did you show him a photo spread that included Jimmie Martin,
yes,
for him to look at it?
yes.
Did you identify Sharon Wright in the photo spread?
Not immediately, no.
What do you mean not immediately?
He didn't. He didn't identify him until I confronted him with the fact that he was being deceptive and not being truthful.
So you put a photo spread in front of him of Sharon Wright.
He said he didn't know anybody in the picture.
How about Jimmie Martin?
He didn't know anybody in the picture.
So we saw two photo spreads, one of Sharon Wright, one of Jimmie Martin, and he says
But he didn't know anyone in those pictures.
at that point, you also show him a photograph of the murder weapon that was recovered from the lake in Walnut, Mississippi.
Yes.
You make notes about his physical reaction at that time.
He when he saw that picture, it was like seeing a ghost. He got like real nervous, and you could see his entire demeanor and body language changing. You could actually see his heartbeat through his shirt.
So investigators asked him if he had ever handled that gun before. You asked him whether or not he ever handled that gun before.
Yes, and he responded that he's handled many guns, and that he owns a shotgun and a 38, but he wasn't certain if he handled that particular gun.
So he's asked if he's handled, you show him a picture of the murder weapon?
Yes.
And his response is he's not sure that he's handled a lot of guns before.
Right. He said, but he's not sure if he's handled that particular one.
And he volunteers he has a shotgun and a 38 caliber revolver.
Yes.
At that point, do you confront this returner about whether or not he's being deceptive or honest?
Yes.
And what does he state?
He said that he was being truthful, and I responded, "You're not being truthful, because when I show you lineups of people you know, you're sitting here telling me you don't know them."
So did you put those lineups back out in front of him?
He requested, "Let me see the lineups again." And I put the lineups again, and I show him Sharon. He was like, there she is right there. And I was like, who is that? She's like, Sharon Wright. Then I showed him the other lineup, and he was, yeah, and that's her cousin, Jimmie.
So he identified Sharon and Jimmie the second time.
Yes.
Did you ask him about whether or not he knew that Sharon Wright owned any weapons at the time of the murder?
Yes, he told me that she owned a 380, and but that weapon was stolen out of her car.
At that point, do you confront him with information about his being involved with Jimmie Martin and Sharon Wright with regard to the murder plot on Lorenzen Wright?
Yes.
Did he admit or deny participation?
Yeah, he denied all involvement in the murder of Lorenzo.
Then did you ask him when the last time he saw Sharon Wright was?
Yes. He said he saw Sharon a couple of weeks ago, and she randomly showed up at the church.
Right. Saw her a couple weeks ago. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that she randomly showed up at church.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you know that to be true or not true?
No, that was not true.
And did you have specific information to confront him with that showed him that was simply not true?
Yes.
And what was that?
We had a text message that was sent from Sharon Wright using somebody else's phone to his phone, and arranging a meeting at somebody else's house. A lady, I believe her first name is Janice.
And had detectives actually surveilled that meeting?
Yes.
So you knew for a fact that that wasn't true?
Yes. We had surveillance set up where they captured a conversation inside between Sharon and Jim, and Billy. And afterwards, they go for a walk on the sidewalk, and they, continue to talk. And that was also captured by the surveillance team.
Did you confront him with that and ask him, why did you tell me that you saw her at church and not this
Right.
thing?
He really didn't have an answer for that. really could not explain why he lied to me about meeting her at church instead of at Janice's house.
Did he give you any reason? Any subject matter with regard to the conversation that he had with Sharon?
Oh, shit, yeah. He said that they were talking about Lorenzen's son, how traumatized he was, the way everything was hitting the news, and how upset he was about the way, everything is playing out. And that's what they were talking about.
Is that an answer that made any sense to you?
No, because I said, so first you tell me you meet at church, now you meet at somebody's house, and if they're talking to you about what's going on in the media, you can do that over the phone. And another thing is, you just a yard man, and do odd jobs around the house. You never mentioned that you were close to any of the kids.
At that point, you confront Mr. Turner with Mr. Martin's statement.
Yes.
Confront him with a description of the conspiracy to kill Lorenzen Wright.
Yes.
Do you confront him with the statement Mr. Martin made about a metal detector in Batesville?
Yes.
Confront him with the statement that Mr. Martin made that Mr. Turner and Mr. Wright drove him to the scene of the murder, and during that ride made various statements about the killing of Lorenzen Wright that they participated in.
Yes.
Mr. Turner appear calm or nervous at this point?
He wasn't definitely not comfortable with what I was confronting him with.
Did he tell you anything, or did he admit anything with regard to ever driving Sharon Wright to Batesville, to this house with Edna Richardson and where Jay Martin lived?
Yes, he said that he did go and got to Beasley and took Sharon shortly after the murder. Shortly after Lorenzo was missing. And they went and got to get a metal detector because Sharon told him that she had lost her diamond ring somewhere in the lawn. And that's why he helped her.
So Mr. Turner told you that shortly after Lorenzen Wright went missing, and you documented that, is that correct?
Yes.
That he drove Sharon Wright to her aunt's house in Batesville to borrow a metal detector.
Yes.
And in fact, 2017, did y'all go back and recover that metal detector from Ms. Richardson?
Yes.
And he told you that Sharon told him that she had lost a diamond ring on the guard of her house?
Yes.
Did you confront Mr. Turner with Mr. Martin's statement that they had actually used that metal detector to help clean up the scene and look for a weapon that was lost during the murder?
Yes, he denied.
Did you confront Mr. Turner with Mr. Martin's statement that Mr. Turner and him, that Mr. Turner had thrown a murder weapon that was recovered by the police in a lake in Walnut, Mississippi?
Yes, he denied that.
You make notes with regard to his denial that he shook his head side to side in disbelief and never responded.
Correct.
Did you confront him with statements that he and Jimmie Martin had gone to Atlanta to Lorenzen's condo to kill Lorenzen Wright?
Yes.
Did Mr. Turner admit or deny going to Atlanta?
He said he did go to Atlanta, but that he was not with Jimmie. He was there to visit some relatives. And if he was there at the same time that Jimmie was there, it was all a coincidence. I asked him for a way for me to verify that. What's your relative's name? What's their phone number? Give me their address. And he didn't have anything. He couldn't tell me where he went in Atlanta, a phone number for me to call. He couldn't give me anyone to talk to.
He couldn't even give you the names?
No, not even a nickname.
Not even a nickname?
Right.
So not a single family member that he was visiting Atlanta, he couldn't give you a name or nickname or anything?
Correct.
Phone numbers, locations, anything?
Correct.
Shortly after not being able to do that, did Mr. Turner terminate the interview?
Yes.
When an interview is terminated like that, are you able to take a written statement? Instead, did you prepare a supplement?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Senator, thank you. Mr. Thomas, you may proceed, sir.
Good afternoon, Detective Frias. Is it Detective?
Yes.
Detective, you said that you conducted an oral interview with Mr. Billy Turner on December 5th of 2017. Is that correct?
Yes.
At that time, was Mr. Turner under arrest?
Yes.
And during that time, you stated that back in 2017, you can only do oral interviews with defendants. Is that correct?
No, that's not what I said. I said that oral interview was part of the interview process. You began with an introduction, you moved to a Miranda rights, then you move to the oral interview, then you reduce it to a typewritten statement.
Were you able to do a recorded interview?
At the time in 2017, that was not our policy, and that was not done. We didn't do that for defendants or any homicide suspects.
And I want to bear down a little bit on that because I've seen 48 hours and
That's TV show.
that's TV shows. So you can
That's
record.
it's a whole different. The real life is a whole different thing.
So you can record for the TV shows. But
That's a whole different agreement. That's a whole different stuff.
So what is the back in 2017? What was the exact policy of the Memphis Police Department? Where is that policy? Do you have it with you, or can you explain to us what that exact policy is?
I didn't know to bring it. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me. But the policy was, as I explained earlier, you don't record, or you don't audio or video record a defendant's statement.
So it's so for just for the jury's sake, all we have to go by today is what you're telling us happened during this interview, correct? Your observations, correct?
No, I mean, what we have is what the defendant told me.
But-
that's what he told me, that's what I wrote down.
But when you were speaking about his, you could see literally his heart jumping out of his chest.
Yes.
We just have your word because we don't have any audio, any video, anything to corroborate that, but just you telling us that, correct?
That's true.
Do you? So you did. So did you put this statement in writing and have Mr. Turner sign it? You stated there was a oral interview and then you would.
You're asking, let me take Frias looked at me because what he told you is that Mr. Turner terminated the interview. Once the interview has been terminated, he cannot ask Mr. Turner to sign anything or talk to him at all. So once the interview has been terminated, Sergeant Frias, Detective Frias has to stop talking to him, can't type a statement, can't say, Mr. Turner, will you please sign this? Once Mr. Turner says, I'm terminating this interview, the whole conversation is over. He can't ask any other questions. He can't talk about anything else. You proceed, Ms. Thomas.
You stated that you showed Mr. Turner a photo lineup of Sharon Wright and Jimmie Martin, correct?
Yes, I did.
Prior to you showing him that photo lineup, did Mr. Turner ever deny knowing Sharon Wright?
No, he didn't.
So if he didn't deny knowing Sharon Wright, what was the significance of making him point out in a photo lineup?
From my experience, defendants would like to distance themselves once they confronted with evidence. They like to push away from anything dealing with whatever the investigation is. So, from my experience, that's how I interpret it.
But he didn't push away because he told you he knew Sharon Wright, correct?
Correct, but your question was why he didn't identify her when I first showed her.
At any point during your oral interview with Mr. Turner, did Mr. Turner ever admit to killing Lorenzen Wright?
No, he did not.
Did he ever admit to being part of some sort of conspiracy with Sharon Wright and Jimmie Martin to kill Lorenzen Wright?
No, he did not.
During your interview, and more specifically, when you showed him the photo lineup, did Mr. Turner have on glasses at that time?
Sir, I don't remember.
You don't remember. Do you remember if he was squinting to look at the pictures or anything?
I don't remember.
So you don't remember if he had on glasses and squinting, but you were able to remember his heart jumping out of his chest?
Correct. The same way that I'm able to tell you that he denied participating in this murder. So if you're going to believe that I'm telling you he didn't participate in this murder, why not believe that his heart's jumping out his chest?
Now, when you asked him about traveling to Atlanta, did you give him any frame of reference as to time?
Yes. I gave him the time and the date that we had the information from when they went down to commit the murder, yes.
What did you tell him?
Whatever day it was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but whatever the date that they went down there to kill Lorenzen Wright, that's the date that I gave him.
Would looking at your supplement help you refresh your recollection?
Yes, but I don't think it's in my supplement. I don't think there's a day on the supplement. But there was a day during the investigation. It's just another supplement. It's not. This is covering the actual interview. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but that was documented.
One second.
Yes, sir. Thomas, we proceed. I apologize.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a question from.
It's a question. I'm not going to interrupt your cross-examination. Ask it when you tell me you have no other questions.
No, yeah, I passed with
Yes, sir. Detective Frias. This question, I'm going to read it exactly as the jury submitted it to the court. Quote, was Detective Frias interviewing Mr. Turner by himself, ? Close quote.
No, actually, it was myself and Sergeant Parks.
Yourself and Sergeant, I'm sorry?
Myself and Sergeant Parks.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. You may continue.
Yeah, no, part of our policy is also, and I'm sorry for not telling you earlier, is that when we interview suspects, we normally do it with two people. We try to do the same thing with witnesses. Like we always try to do two people.
Mr. Hager, any additional questions? Ms. Thomas, any additional questions?
No, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, before I excuse Detective Frias, any other questions from the jury? Detective Frias, thank you for being present in court today. I'm going to excuse you for any additional testimony. You cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. Well, I don't want to talk about their testimony, rather, and be careful and be safe, sir. Thank you, sir, and sit down, sir. State, you may call your next witness.
State will call Michael Gibson.
Michael Gibson, please. Mr. Gibson, come up to where Deputy Smith is located. Come right up to where the circle is seal of Shelby County. And once you get there, please place your left hand on the Bible, please. Raise your right hand to be sworn. Mr. Gibson, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Put your hand up, Mr. Gibson. Have a seat here, please, sir. Mark yourself, please, sir. Mr. Gibson, good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Mr. Gibson, you have a mask on, and I will leave this option up to you. We're required to certain extent to have a mask on in the courtroom. But if you want to pull the mask off while you're testifying so the jury can better hear you,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it can help you breathe better. You may do so. If you want to keep it on, you may keep it on.
No, I'll keep it off.
Keep it off. Thank you, sir. Mr. Schofield, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gibson, could you state and spell your name for the jury and the court reporter, please?
Sure. Michael Gibson, MICHALGIPSON.
All right. Mr. Gibson, do you know Lorenzen Wright?
Yeah, that's my best friend. I've been knowing him since third grade.
Since third grade.
Yep.
So are you from Memphis originally?
From Oxford, Mississippi.
Okay. Knew him his whole life.
Yep. Pretty much.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2010. Where were you living in 2010?
In Smyrna, we had a condo in Smyrna.
And when you say we, do you mean you and Lorenzen Wright?
Yep. Yes, sir.
I'm going to publish, Your Honor, what's been previously marked as exhibit number 5.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize this picture, Mr. Gibson?
Yeah, that's the condo.
That's the condo where you and Lorenzo were living in 2010.
Yes, sir.
When did you move into the condo?
Around April of 2010.
And how long did you stay there?
About 3.5 months.
Did you leave after Mr. Wright was murdered?
Yes, sir.
And Smyrna, a suburb of Atlanta,
It is.
because Atlanta's a pretty big place, right?
Yeah, it's right outside of Atlanta.
Right outside Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And looking at this house, is this house 3 levels?
It is. 3
Okay.
levels.
And could you describe the bottom level of the house? What type of room was that?
You had a game room downstairs, a big game room, bathroom, and then access to the garage.
Okay. Was there a pool table down there?
Yeah, pool table.
What color was the felt on that pool table?
It was red.
Why was it red?
Because of our fraternity cap outside.
All right. Fraternity colors, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to publish, Your Honor, which has been previously marked as exhibit number 6.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gibson, what is this a picture of?
That's the back view from the condo.
Okay. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm afraid to use Mr. Hagerman's stick. Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, come on. So close. Okay, well, I'm pointing at the wrong thing, but is that the house right in the middle there?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
And you can see like kind of I'm going to describe it as like a hill right there. Would that be safe to say?
That is correct.
And would it be true that the third level is actually below that hill?
Right. You can't see that. The level that you see right now, that's where the patio and kitchen and all that was.
Okay, that would be off the main level above the garage?
Main level, yes, sir.
And so you would come out on that patio and actually look down, right?
Right.
And the lower levels beneath that?
That's correct.
And were there windows back there?
It was.
Did those windows go into the game?
One did, and one on the side went into the game room.
Okay. Where did you typically sleep in the house?
On the couch.
On the couch. Was it a comfortable couch?
Yes, it was very much so.
And were you sporting that same beautiful bald haircut that I currently have?
I've
and
been
you
having
currently
that
have back then?
since my senior year of high school. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if anybody would say they saw a bald-headed guy on the couch, would that be you?
That would be correct.
Okay. Do you recall in June of 2010, did Sharon Wright ever visit the home?
Just from what Lorenzo told me, I getting off work one day and he told me I just missed yours. She had just left.
Was that a planned visit?
No, not at all.
Kind of a pop-up?
Yep.
Did you later talk to Sharon about that visit?
Yeah, I mean, she said she came and her words were she checked out the apartment. She scoped out the apartment. She said, y'all got a nice little spot, you know.
And that was in June of 2010?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness room.
Mr. Thomas, I'm sorry, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Gibson.
How you doing, sir?
Mr. Gibson, in 2010, when you lived in that condo, was there an alarm system in that condo?
No, sir.
Do you know Jimmie Martin, or did you know him back in 2010?
Not at all.
You never met him.
Never met him.
Did you know what he looked like?
Not at all. Not a clue.
No. You passed it, John.
Mr. Gibson, I want to thank you for being present in court today, and I also want to offer you my condolences for the loss of Lorenzen Wright, who you described as your best friend. You're going to excuse from any additional testimony. You cannot discuss your testimony with anyone or allow anyone to talk to you about their testimony. Mr. Gibson, if you can stay and watch the rest of the trial, you're free to go so. You're free to do so. And if you can't, just be safe. Thank you, sir. You can step down and watch your step, sir.
All right, thank you.
Say you may call your next witness, Mr. Ackerman.
Lieutenant Brian Beasley.
Lieutenant
Brian Beasley.
Ryan Diesel?
Beasley, sorry.
Beasley, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Listen, there's my ears ringing. That's okay. Got to ask this question. Anyone need a break? Everyone's okay? Okay. Lieutenant Beasley, call to where Deputy Smith is standing, please, sir. Right on the seal, Shelby County, please. Place your left hand on the Bible, please, and raise your right hand to be sworn, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? I do. Thank you, sir. Put your hand down and have a seat here. Do you need your briefcase?
No.
Okay. Have a seat. Watch step, please, sir. And if you want to, Lieutenant, you have one step ahead of me. You may take that mask off for purposes of testifying. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ackerman, you may proceed.
You say your name to court, please.
Brian Beasley,
Spell the first and last name for the jury and court reporter.
BRIAN BEASLEY.
And are you a Memphis police officer?
I am.
How long?
24 years.
In those 24 years, I'm going to ask you about a particular year back in, well, I'm actually going to ask you about 2 years, but let's start backwards and ask about 2018. Did you have occasion to become involved in the investigation that we've called here Operation Rebound?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you about your duties on a particular day, June the 5th of 2018, in connection with that case, okay?
Okay.
That day, did you receive a call with regard to the case?
I did.
And without getting into details of what people said, tell me the substance of the call.
That Earl Smith, because of Billy Turner, was in possession of his Dodge Stratus.
Earl Smith. Is that a name that had come up at all in the investigation previously?
No.
Was in possession of what?
The Dodge Stratus that had once belonged to Billy Turner.
It is 2018 when you get that call, is that right?
That's right.
Through all the years, this crime happened in 2010, is that correct?
That's right.
Through all the years since 2010, had Memphis police officers or anybody ever located the Dodge Stratus in question?
We had none.
In 2012, to your knowledge, that Jimmie Martin provided a description of the vehicle.
He did.
And now it's 2018.
Yes.
And who has this Dodge Stratus?
Earl Smith.
And why did you receive a call about it?
He was strapping the vehicle and had loaded it on a trailer to take it to the scrap yard. A neighbor had seen that occurring and approached Earl and said it would be a good idea for him to call the police.
Had the neighbor seen something on TV?
Yeah, and he knew that the car belonged to Billy Turner also.
And did you call the police?
Yes,
Did y'all respond out there?
we did.
And tell me what y'all found.
We found a 2004 Dodge Stratus that once belonged to Billy Turner. It was it had been dragged out of the woods and loaded on a trailer upside down.
Who dragged it out of the woods? Y'all did that?
No,
Who did that?
Earl.
Your cousin?
Yes.
What kind of place was this that the car was at?
It was a rural, I call it the country. It was a rural area outside of Carterville, Tennessee. I believe it was a 5-acre lot, and it was partially in field and partially wooded.
Let me pass you a series of photographs. Let me get the number right before I do that. Series of 12 photographs. Just very briefly, look at them to yourself and tell the court what's pictured in each. Then we'll offer them the evidence after you identify.
Okay, this is the rear of the Dodge Stratus loaded on the trailer.
Maybe we'll put them face down so we can keep them in order.
Okay. This is just another angle of the Dodge Stratus loaded upside down on the trailer.
And that thing was, it was upside down when y'all got out there?
Yeah, the Earl had taken a tractor and took a chain to it, and the way that he had to load it on the trailer, it pulled it upside down. So this next picture is just the trail back to where he had this car stored, and I tried to capture the drag marks through the grass. This next is a picture of other cars that were stored in that area. All right, this picture is where the Dodge Stratus once was, and it had been there so long that the grass had stopped growing. All right, this is when we searched the Dodge Stratus at our vehicle impound lot. This was the contents of the trunk. These are red handle wire cutters that we located and seized from the trunk. This is a shotgun shell that we seized from the trunk of the Dodge Stratus. More shotgun shells that we seized from the trunk.
remember how many shotgun shells y'all found in your car?
I think it was 17.
17.
There's more. This is paperwork from the Dodge Stratus that just showed that Billy Turner had once purchased that vehicle. And I believe this is the bill of sale.
That was found in the vehicle.
Yes. And this is just more paperwork with Billy Turner's name on it.
And for instance, the bill of sale or the second piece of paperwork, when you locate items, do you try to locate things, in case of car, things inside a car that may connect it to the person that owned it?
Yes,
And so that's how why those things are tagged.
that's right.
Have those marked as states next number of units.
Mr. Mr. Thomas, do you need to see these photographs?
I would like to see.
And Lori, please. You know, one small favor, try to keep them in the order in which they're handed to you, because I took notes and hopefully I got it right this time. Yes, sir. Any objection, Mr. Perry and or Mr. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit number 7777. The photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as the rear of a Dodge Stratus, upside down on a trailer. Exhibit 77. Exhibit number 78 will be a photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as, this is a different angle taken from the side of that Dodge Stratus on a trailer. Exhibit number 78. Exhibit number 79 is a photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as showing drag marks to where the trail as to where the car had been stored. Exhibit 79. Exhibit number 80. Photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as showing other cars stored in that area. Exhibit number 80. Exhibit number 81 is photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as showing the location from which this car was towed and dead grass. Exhibit number 81. Exhibit number 82 is photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as taken at the impound lot, showing the contents of the trunk of this Dodge Stratus. Exhibit number 82. Exhibit number 83. Photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as showing red handle wire cutters found in the trunk. Exhibit 83, red handle wire cutters. Exhibit number 84. Photograph showing a shotgun shell in the trunk. Exhibit 84. Exhibit number 85 is photograph showing additional shotgun shells. Exhibit 85. Exhibit number 86. Photographs showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional shotgun shells. Exhibit 86. Exhibit number 87. Photographs showing a bill of sales. So when this car was purchased by Billy Turner. Exhibit 87, bill of sales. Exhibit number 88. Photograph described by Lieutenant Beasley as showing additional paperwork found in this car with the defendant's name. Exhibit 88, additional paperwork with Mr. Turner's name. Mr. Hagerman, you may proceed.
I can publish these, ask the detectives some questions as we go through.
Yes, sir, you may do so.
All right. Mr. Turner's already been arrested, is that correct?
That's right.
And this picture's taken where?
In a residential area in 190 Highway 196, just outside Collierville.
Okay, whose house is that?
Earl Smith's.
Who's the cousin?
Yes.
What do we see in the picture?
That's the Dodge Stratus, turned upside down. He had intended to scrap it and had pulled it on the trailer with a chain.
Okay, is that how y'all found it?
Yes.
Upside down on the trailer?
Right.
Different view?
Yes.
Actually, it's been previously marked, my approach witness.
Yes, sir.
Been previous marked as exhibit 73. Identified by Mr. Jimmie Martin. Is that a picture of the same Dodge Stratus?
It is. That's when we dropped it off at the vehicle impound lot.
All right. What are we looking at here?
All right, so that's the area where the car was stored. And if you'll see where those cars are, it was among those. And like I said earlier, I tried to capture the drag marks from where it was dragged out with the tractor.
You said neighborhood, and it's in a very rural area though, is it not?
That's right.
All right. Next. What's this picture?
Some more cars stored where the Dodge Stratus had been stored before it was pulled out.
These cars, they have no involvement in the investigation or the murder ones or anything.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's where the Dodge Stratus had once sat, and it had been there so long that it killed the grass.
Is that the trunk?
It is.
All right, let's temper our expectations here. Tell me what you said this was.
Those are red handle wire cutters.
And did that have some interest for you as far as when you found them?
Yes.
Had Jimmie Martin described red-handled wire cutters?
He did.
But in fairness, did Jimmie Martin describe wire cutters that were red-handled and bigger. I think counsel said 2 feet. He's got bigger wire cutters than that?
In my mind, that's what I described.
Okay. Well, if the record reflects, or Jimmie Martin has testified that 2 feet bigger wire clippers, you'd have to take his word for it, wouldn't you?
Yes,
And in fact, these wire clippers were sent for testing, is that correct?
they were.
And the results of the testing as compared to sections of barbed wire were inconclusive, is that correct?
That's correct.
Nevertheless, those things were tagged into evidence, is that correct?
They were.
Okay. Shotgun shells in the trunk?
Yes,
More shotgun shells?
mm-hmm. Yes,
Paperwork?
yes,
Showing Billy Turner as the purchaser of the car?
yes,
More paperwork. Billy Turner's name, July 2028, is that right?
that's right.
And you see stains on that paperwork, and there's other paperwork collected from the car too, correct?
Right.
And you see all sorts of stains that, I don't know what they look like to somebody else, but you look at them right here, you think maybe that's blood or something, is that right?
Yes,
But were all these things submitted for testing to TBI?
yes,
And was a determination made that that is either not blood or they're unable to say?
right.
I've got to guess it's transmission fluid.
Yeah, it's very possible.
So 2018, you finally catch up to the Dodge Stratus that was described in 2012 by Jimmie Martin.
Yes,
Now we're going to back up to the time period before Billy Turner was arrested.
okay,
After the release of the gun to the media, the fact that the murder weapon had been recovered,
yes,
did investigators get approval from the judge for a wiretap?
yes,
And that is a warrant that allows y'all to listen to people's phones, is that correct?
that's correct.
And one of the people whose phone you listened to is Sharon Wright.
It was.
And was one of the people's phones you listened to Billy Turner.
Yes,
After the release of the information that the murder weapon had been found, did Miss Wright take a sudden trip from California to Memphis?
yes,
When she got to Memphis, did she make contact with Billy Turner?
she did.
Did she do that using her cell phone?
No,
Did she do that using somebody else's cell phone?
yes,
How is it then that we know about it if she didn't use her cell phone?
because we're capturing Billy Turner's text messages and phone communications also.
Okay. So on Billy Turner's phone, do we get a message to Billy Turner from Sharon using somebody else's phone after she's made this sudden trip to Memphis?
Yes,
Let me pass you this printout and see if you recognize this. You check this one. They had these when we were in jail. What's that? Tell us what this piece of paper is.
all right, this is what's commonly referred to as the line sheet. And it is a hard record of a text message to Billy Turner, which was a incoming text from a phone that belonged to Rosalind Coburn.
Who's Rosalind Coburn?
She was a friend of this group, between the friend group of Billy Turner and Sharon Wright.
And when I asked you, or you described, a message that Sharon sent to Billy using a different phone, is this that message?
Yes,
Yeah, is it a text message?
it is.
And how's it reading?
It says, I'm on her phone. I got a chance to see everybody but you this morning. This is your sis from Cali.
This is your sis,
This
Callie?
your sis from Cali.
What offer that in there, Mrs. Tucker?
Ms. Harris, comments, interjections?
No, sir.
Exhibit number 8989. A text or line report as described by Lieutenant Beasley as a text from Sharon Wright to Billy Turner using the phone of Rosalind. For the record, Rosalind, Rosland, Coburn, Coburn. Exhibit number 89. You may proceed.
After she sent that message, did we capture responses from Billy Turner?
Yes, we did.
Let me just go ahead and pass you all these collectively here. 6 pieces of paper. Can you identify these as the various line sheets that capture the various sort of responses back and forth?
Yes.
I'd offer those amendments to say 600. I think we can do it collectively. Maybe just go to the court if it wishes.
Ms. Harris, comments, interjections?
There we go.
Exhibit number 90. Line sheet, text message from the put a time on it so it make more sense. Provided date and time is November 12, 2017. Outgoing text at 9:39. Exhibit number 90. Exhibit number 91 will be an outgoing, will also be a text message between the numbers of Rosalind Coburn and Billy Turner. November 12, 2017, time 9:40 and 28 seconds. Exhibit number 91. Exhibit number 92 will be a text on November 12, 2017. Time 9:52. Exhibit number 92. Exhibit number 93 is a text on November 12, 2017 between these same two phones. Time 9:53. November 12, 2017. Exhibit number 94, another text message between these two phones on November 12, 2017, time listed at 9:55. Exhibit number 95, the text between these two phones on November 12, 2017, time listed at 9:56. Exhibit 95. Might want to hand, Ms. Haggard, you may proceed. Do you want those, or do you want to give it to Lieutenant Beasley?
Let me figure this out real quick. Do we have these scanned in?
We don't.
Beasley, okay.
Yes, sir.
You just sort of walk us through. You have read the original text message, is that correct?
That's right.
Which was from Rosalind Coburn's phone, from your sis in Cali.
Right.
What was Mr. Turner's response?
Wrong person. You misspelled person, but I interpret that as wrong person.
All right, wrong person. After that.
Okay, so Billy Turner's phone receives an incoming text that said, "Boy, that's Sharon on my phone."
All right, because this is Rosalind Coburn's phone talking to Mr. Turner.
Yeah, that's what it would indicate.
So this is your sis from California, sis from Cali, Mr. Turner, wrong person. And now, boy, this is Sharon on my phone.
Right.
Okay.
So Billy sends a reply that says, "Oh."
Okay.
And then follows that up with another reply. "How long are you going to be in town?"
Okay.
A reply from Rosalind Coburn's phone. "A couple of days, you should eat at TJ's."
TJ's?
Yes. And then he replies, "Okay."
So these messages come through the wire, is that right?
That's right.
Are they of interest to y'all?
Yes.
Why are they of interest to you?
Because it was direct contact between Sharon Wright and Billy Turner.
Had she planned out this trip to California?
No.
It was taken all of a sudden.
Yes.
When she came to Memphis, y'all were still able to receive text messages and phone calls and things that she was making once she was in Memphis?
We were.
Did she set up any other meetings like this using somebody else's phone?
No.
Just this one?
Yes.
Did y'all know what TJ's meant?
I'm not sure we did at that time, but we were able to figure that out.
What'd you figure it out to be?
That was the home of Janice Taylor. Our investigation showed that most of this friend group went to church together. And after services on Sunday, they would go and have a dinner at Janice Taylor's house.
So we have a meeting at TJ's, Janice, backwards, meeting at Janice Taylor's.
Right.
Did y'all do anything in response to that?
Yes, we put Janice Taylor's house under surveillance.
To see whether or not the two suspects actually met?
Yes,
Did they actually meet?
they did.
Now, if they had talked on the phone, y'all would be able to hear them, right?
That's right.
Because of the Wi-Fi.
Yes,
And they met in person.
they did.
Were y'all able, through surveillance when they met in person to hear what they were talking about?
No.
Were you all able to see it though?
Yes.
Were you able to see whether or not it was a long or short meeting, for instance?
It was. I would consider it a long meeting.
We're going to hear from the officer who actually conducted the surveillance
Uh-huh.
by the Smith. We are able to witness the meeting
Yes.
from its start to its end,
Yes.
and where it occurred,
Right. Yes.
and the parties during the meeting,
Yes.
but unable to hear the words.
That's correct.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Mr. Hagerman, thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Thomas. Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Beasley, when it was leaked to the media that a gun was found and Sharon came to Memphis, did Sharon contact Billy or did Billy contact Sharon?
Shara contacted Billy.
Do you have any communication prior to the leaking of the gun in the lake? When was the last communication from Billy to Sharon?
It would have probably been around the event, or around. It'd been probably several years before that, but I just don't know that off the top of my head.
So when it was leaked that this gun was found in the lake, you don't have anything where Billy is initiating any kind of contact with Shaw Wright. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
When Shaw texted Billy from Rosalind Colburn's phone number, did Billy know who that was based on the text message?
I interpreted that as no.
When Shaw came to Memphis, did she meet with other people besides Billy?
She did.
Who else did she meet with?
A love interest named Kelvin, I think was his name. Her ex-husband. She met with several people.
At this meeting at Janice Taylor's house, were there other people there?
There were?
Do you know about how many people were there?
No.
Do you know what was going on that day at Janice Taylor's house?
Yeah, I believe that they were having a dinner. They do it every Sunday is what I believe happens there.
Can I have a second, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you about those wire cutters that were found in the trunk of Billy Turner's Dodge. You say that you sent those off for comparison with a sample of the fence that Callis cut off, correct?
We did.
And what were the results of that test?
They were inconclusive.
Inconclusive, so you couldn't put them together, correct?
That's correct.
No other questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Hagerman, any additional questions?
No, sir.
Beasley, I also want to thank you for being present in court today, sir. You cannot discuss your testimony with anyone or allow anyone to talk to you about your testimony and your excuse from any additional testimony. Please stay safe, sir. Thank you, sir. Sit down and watch yourself, please. Ladies and gentlemen, does anyone need a break at this time?
I think the attorneys need to approach about one.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Counsel, approach, please. I anticipate, I need to also apologize, I almost forgot. Need to have a conversation with Mr. Morgan about something he brought to my attention on Monday. Mr. Morgan told me he had a funeral that he needs to go to tomorrow, and we're not going to finish this case tonight. The state of Tennessee, I believe, has one other witness to present to you. Deputies have been telling me all day where your dinner is and what time your reservations are, and on a Friday night in Memphis. If you're not there, they might bump your reservation because Memphis restaurants tend to be very busy. So we're going to stop today so we can get you out of the building, get you to dinner at your reservation time between what time and what time, Deputy Smith? Somewhere at 5:30 to 6 o'clock pocket. And so we're going to stop today. We're going to start tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We have no docket in the morning, so we're going to start at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Remember the course instructions, do not discuss the case with anyone or amongst yourselves. I'm going to ask everyone else to retire to the jury room. Mr. Morgan, if you just stay seated for a minute, I need to talk to you to make sure that we get everything squared away that we talked about on Monday, sir. Everyone else can follow Deputy Smith, please. For the record, the jury is out. It's Twishell Morgan. Out you. Now, you told me on Monday that Judge Coffey, I have a funeral that I need to go to on Saturday. I think you told me this at 1 p.m. And that's a very close family member, and you really, really, really wanted to go to that funeral. Is that correct? And I also told you we were still in trial on Friday. I would talk to you on Friday, check with you, see how you're doing. And then, Mr. Morgan, if you tell me, Judge Coffey, I really need to go to that funeral, I'm going to discharge you as an alternate. If you tell me, Judge Coffey, I don't want to be discharged as an alternate, I want to conclude this trial, I would not discharge you as an alternate. But if you tell me, Judge, I want to go to the family member funeral, I'm going to discharge you as an alternate today and make sure you get back to wherever you need to go in Shelby County. The deputy who's been driving you all week will take you to wherever you need to go, and make sure you make that funeral. So if you tell the judge you want to go to that funeral, this will actually conclude your jury service this week.
Yeah, I
Want to go to the funeral. Mr. Morgan, on behalf of all the lawyers involved in this case, the great state of Tennessee, Mr. Billy Turner, Mr. Perry, Mr. Thomas, Representative Mr. Turner, Mr. Hagerman, Mr. Schofield, who represents the state of Tennessee, Ms. Deborah Marion and her family, for Lorenzen Wright. I want to thank you for the sacrifices that you made on March 4th, 2022, 2 weeks ago, when I talked to you and about 200 other prospective jurors, and you filled out a 21-page questionnaire and told me to Judge Coffey, I'm willing to serve in this case, I'm willing to be sequestered and taken away from my family and others. I want to thank you for that sacrifice that you made. It is, in fact, a wholly 100% selfless sacrifice. I will excuse you from any further jury duty. Do not want you to miss that funeral. We'll give you a jury certificate, Mr. Morgan, that would indicate you were impaneled, you were sworn that you did serve on this jury. In the state of Tennessee, we could actually send you a summons every 2 years for state court. But because of the population of Shelby County, we're not going to send you a summons on purpose to serve on a state jury until 2032. Now, if you get a summons before that date, you have the right to serve if you choose to do so. But if you choose not to serve, you can tell them that Judge Coffey said, I do not have to serve in state court for 10 years. Now, if you get a summons from the United States of America, I have no control over the federal government or over the president. And those summonses are for a month at a time. This summons will indicate you were impaneled, you were sworn, and that you did serve. Mr. Morgan, anything in your notebook that you want to keep, feel free to keep it. The cover of the notebook has my direct phone number, email address on it. Call me at any time. If you have any questions about anything in the notebook that you don't want to keep, Deputy Smith will collect that notebook, and I will personally shred the entire contents so no one will ever be able to read what notes that you might have taken in that notebook. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. If you want to call me one day next week and say, Just Coffee, you probably see it on the news before I tell you what happened. Just Coffee, will you please let me know what happened on the Billy Turner trial? I'll be glad to let you know what happens and when your fellow jurors reach a verdict on that case. Let Deputy Smith know if you have anything in the jury room. We'll get you back to the hotel room and make sure we get your personal property to you and get you home so you can make that funeral tomorrow morning at 1 o'clock, sir. Any questions, sir? Now, I told you for 2 weeks that you couldn't talk to anyone. That has been lifted. If you want to talk to the lawyers, you may do so. You don't have to talk to anyone at all. If you want to talk to the lawyers, I'll make you available to talk to the attorneys. If you don't want to talk to the lawyers, just tell me Just Call. If you don't want to talk to the lawyers, they will not approach you. They will not talk to you. The media will never talk to you about this case because they cannot. And if you choose to talk to anyone, talk to that person or persons only about your impressions, what your thoughts are. Do not talk about anything that might have occurred between you and you and your fellow jurors over the course of this trial. But if you choose not to talk to anyone, just let me know, and the lawyers will not talk to you at all, sir. Any questions, Mr. Morgan? If you need something for your job, it says you actually served Ms. Kimmons or Mr. Waddell. I think actually in the jury assembly room they have the scene now you can take this barcode with your camera. Did you happen to take that when you were there?
I did not.
If you did not, do you have the number for the jury commissioner?
I do not.
Call the jury commissioners, let Mrs. Kimmons and Mr. Waddell know that you were discharged as an alternate, and they will send to your job a written letter or email message or anything else they need to show that you were in fact serving on this jury since Monday of this week. And again, on behalf of this great volunteer state of Tennessee, the sacrifices that you made, I want to commend you for that. As I told you 2 weeks ago, and as I told you on Monday, trial by jury in this country is absolutely the best system in the world. It is not perfect. It has a lot of flaws. It has a lot of things that if I were king of jury trials, I would do it a little bit better. But this imperfect system is the absolute best system in the world. And I want to thank you for your sacrifices, sir. Step down and give your jury certificate, Mr. Morgan. You want to talk to any of the lawyers?
No.
We don't blame you.
Absolutely honored to talk to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, sir. I take this notebook. You want to write anything in? I do not. Thank you, sir. Let Deputy Smith know we need to get Mr. Morgan to his destination, please. Members of the press, thank you for your patience. We're going to start tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We'll get you access to the courtroom before 9 so you can get set up. The state's next witness is someone who is still currently working in an undercover capacity. So please do not broadcast his name. Please do not put his face on TV because it puts him or her at some great danger. Still working undercover capacity with gangs and other things in Shelby County. So please don't broadcast the name. Please don't put him on TV. Don't put him in the papers. Don't put him on any internet because I don't want to endanger the life of that police officer who's still working with some very difficult elements in Shelby County, Tennessee. For those folks that can be back tomorrow morning, we'll see you back in court tomorrow morning at 9. Please be safe going home and make sure you stay safe in this pandemic that is enduring. Thank you for your patience this week. State has one of the witnesses tomorrow morning, and we'll try to wrap this case up and get you back to your houses and homes as soon as we can. This court stand adjourned to 9 o'clock, Saturday morning, March 19, 2022.